All right. I suggest we start with the webinar. Again, thank you all for joining and taking the effort and time to listen in and hear all about supply chain orchestration, hosted by Orchestra. For the people who do not know me, I'm Bram van Londen. I have an extensive background in supply chain and technology, mainly gained in logistics for various companies, TNT Express, later FedEx, and later on Siemens Logistics. And I'm now responsible for sales within Orchestra. And as you might already know, Orchestra is a supply chain orchestration platform. We will explain a bit later what that entails. So in the webinar of today, we have created an agenda with three main topics. Since we are talking about supply chain orchestration, I think it's useful that we first establish what the fundamentals of supply chain orchestration are and what that entails. Then we are going to have a look at how technology plays a role in supply chain orchestration and how it helps companies, customers of ours, in orchestrating their entire end-to-end supply chain. After that, we will showcase 1-2 examples of where supply chain orchestration is put to work and put into activity in disruptive environments. So basically building resilience in unpredictable times, I would say. Yeah. All right, let's jump into the first agenda point. So the fundamentals of supply chain orchestration. If you think about and look at orchestration, basically what you try to master is collaboration. Collaboration between the involved parties within the supply chain, whatever that might be for you as a customer. Yeah, so it might be your suppliers, it might be your carriers or logistic service providers, it might be your customers. Supply chain orchestration is basically about collaboration between the parties in order to forge a strong chain of trust between each other. Yeah. So supply chain orchestration is basically the strategic coordination and integration of all the functions and activities and processes and people even involved in the various disciplines like production, like sourcing, like manufacturing, and the eventual delivery and warehousing of goods. Yeah. So topics and disciplines that you could think of are the entire demand planning and forecasting, the transportation management, so transport of goods, the warehousing and inventory optimization, your supplier relationship, but also your customer relationship, the collaboration and communication between those parties to do risk management and to avoid disruptions within your supply chain. And basically you do that with technology involved and integration within the landscape that you are running, all to create a holistic view, I would say, over the supply chain at hand. Yeah. So interdisciplinary view of supply chain. Yeah, and not the siloed approach that we are used to. No. The kind of topics that you tackle with that are really around supply chain or working in a more siloed systematic way. Yeah, so where transportation is really responsible for transport only, and then hands over to warehousing, where eventually you would like to see what is the impact of transportation on my eventual inventory if a delay comes up, or how does it impact my customer production process if I source later? Yeah. So the typical topics there are where shippers want to see, hey, where are my goods? Not only in on a map in the world to see where the shipment somewhere is at sea, but also understand what is happening with that shipment, yeah, or with that activity, so to say. To create the end-to-end visibility in performance. It might be your own performance, it might be the performance of one of your subcontractors and one of your carriers, for instance, based on the KPIs you have set, or the end-to-end cost of your total landing cost for your production and for your supply chain. Yeah. This means that you will create, for the lack of better word, one source of truth, basically, or one source of where people gather information from, and can look at it from different angles. So it means that you will speak throughout the supply chain the same language. Yeah. So even if you are on the supplier side, you always know what your customer is talking about. Yeah. So that's the idea of supply chain orchestration, the entire holistic view over the supply chain. Now, if you look at how we have done that traditionally or in the past, yeah, on the lower left side, you see the transactional layer, what we call it, yeah, where the approach was very much siloed in manufacturing has their own systems and their own views of the world. The transportation have their own systems like the TMSs or carrier portals or partner portals or whatnot, yeah. And the warehousing also have their own inventory tools, etc. So this is basically the existing landscape that we see with most of our customers, and which is a very traditional way of looking at supply chain activities. Yeah, very siloed in the disciplines. We do our work and we do our work very well, but there is no overview of what is beyond that. Yeah. Typically, what you see in the market is that you have all kinds of value-added services, like third-party services around port congestion data or shipping schedules, GPS or weather or air traffic data. These kind of data sources that add value to the already existing landscape to derive more information out of that. Often you see that topped off with IoT tracking devices to have a deeper look into your shipments. Yeah, so if you run, for instance, a cold chain, it means you will track your temperatures throughout the supply chain, and if there's variables in that or differentiations in that, or maybe more towards the tilting or shock absorption of your goods. This is typically what you would measure with IoT tracking devices. So this is what the market basically offers towards the ones that run their supply chain. Now, the view where we come from is what we call the orchestration layer. Yeah. So we tend to believe that it is beneficial to not only look into your own silo or in your own discipline, but to enable the people within that discipline to look over that fence and see the impact that it might have on the other side. Which means, for example, in execution, when you create purchase orders, for instance, yeah, in execution, how does that impact eventually my shipping, and what kind of demand do I create with that? Yeah, can I consolidate maybe certain demand when it comes to shipping? When it comes to visibility, how do I create the overall visibility over those disciplines, and how does it impact the other disciplines besides where I am. Yeah. So that is where the idea of supply chain orchestration and the orchestration layer that our platform serves comes from. So that basically tells you about the fundamentals of supply chain orchestration. So it's very much about collaboration, being able and enable the various disciplines to get out of their silo and to have a broader view over the supply chain, to define and make visible the impact it has when certain disruptions occur, so that you have one controlled environment. Now, this cannot be done by people alone, as you can imagine. Like I explained, you already have an existing landscape very often. So we use our platform towards our customers to unlock that potential of supply chain orchestration. Yeah, so we use a supply chain orchestration platform, software as a service, in order to support our customers. When you look at the projects that we approach, or the implementations that we start, it basically always starts with integration. I would say 99 out of 100 of our customers do have an existing landscape. Yeah, they run their SAPs, they run their TMS systems that already have data. So our approach is always about integration first. Yeah, to get the best source of data connected to a platform to derive information out of that. When you have done integration, it would be nice if you can also do something with that, yeah? Which means you will run into execution. Execution from an inbound perspective, but also execution from an outbound perspective. So we are talking purchase order management, but also shipment order management. If and when you run that execution, you would like to have visibility and control over that. So that's our visibility module, basically, that entails that. So to ensure that the goods that you are shipping are in a timely manner, according to the milestones that your customer expects, or you are able to interfere there where necessary. To change the impact of delays, for instance, yeah. For that, you need collaboration, obviously, yeah. So you want to be triggered by a system to say, hey, focus on these kind of shipments, of SKUs, of containers, whatever the level is you want to have visible and want to collaborate upon. We have our platform ready to set those triggers, to warn you, hey, these are kind of things that are at risk, and to make sure that you can interact with the parties involved. Having said that, you obviously also have analytics around that to learn from the past to get better in the future, as we always say. To derive information about subcontractor performance, of carrier performance, for instance. But we also use analytics in a real-time environment, and I will have examples of that later in the third block, where you will see how we use analytics in a day-to-day basis, triggered by notifications to avoid disruptions and avoid delays in replenishment, for instance. Yeah, so if you look at the flow, it's always integration first. Use what you have, use the right data sources that you have, ensure execution over that from an inbound, but also an outbound perspective. Yeah, so have that holistic view that creates the visibility over that. So you know where your goods are, in which state they are, and what kind of action you need to take in terms of collaboration with the parties, and have the analytics help you in supporting that on a day-to-day basis, or to learn in the after event. Now, if you look a bit deeper in integration, it is integration with ERP systems. So we do standard integration with, for instance, SAP, the Oracles of this world, but also the TMSs of this and WMSs of this world, to derive the right information out of those systems. We add enhanced information out of IoT devices, if that is something you would need or want us to cater for. We link to the standard carrier portals already. We can basically link to any carrier portal, but we do out of the box certain standard portals like the FedExes and DHLs of this world. So we link to carriers and freight forwarders as well. Yeah, so that is the basis to centralize basically your data on the orchestration platform. Then if you look at execution, it is really about using integrations with SAP to bring up your procurement orders, to manage your procurement orders, to create shipments out of that, eventually to book shipments on the carrier side, to follow up with the carrier in terms of milestones and when deadlines are close or are missed. Approval workflow, so meaning, are these goods good to be shipped? Yeah, or does it need a certain documentation around it? So the entire documentation management within that we cover. And obviously, like I said before, we do the supplier management around that as well. Yeah, so ordering of supply towards your suppliers, we can link to their systems in order to book your orders with them to get the supply coming into your production or to your customer production. So that's the part of execution. If you then look at the part of visibility, we are talking real-time visibility here, and really by means of end-to-end. So not only visibility of a ship leaving the port of Shanghai and arriving in Rotterdam. No, also the visibility of what is happening with that shipment, and does it hit certain timelines, and what do I need to do in order to make things on time. The inventory visibility, so if I look at my supply and I look at my demand, do I still have enough goods in my inventory to supply my customers, or do I already need to start ordering? Visibility on SKU level, basically on any level that you would prefer, and the obvious IoT-enabled visibility. So it's not only visibility on a certain shipment tracking, so to say, yeah, but also visibility over the entire execution of it, yeah. So of the starting of the purchase order creation all the way up to the delivery of goods at the end customer, including the warehousing, including the transportation of those goods. Then if we look a bit deeper into collaboration, it's all about interacting with your partners in real time. And this is the true sense of the word, yeah. So our system, we cater for notifications and triggers, where based on business rules that have been set, you will see a certain focus coming up. Like a focus on this shipment because there might be some documentation missing, or focus on this container because it has not been discharged yet from the port of Hong Kong. Yeah, so it might run into a delay, and you can really start interacting with your suppliers, with your customers, in order to mitigate those risks around that. So we have workflow management around that if that is needed. Document management, so upload of customs documentation, invoice documentation, to ensure that everyone in that supply chain does have the right information at the right time to do his or her part in order to mitigate risk and problems and make it as smooth as possible process. So that is what we deliver out of our platform as well. When you look at analytics, we are talking really order and shipment analytics, cost analytics, so making supply decisions, making carrier decisions based on the KPIs you have set. If you look at certain trade lanes from Genoa to Rotterdam, is DHL still the right one, a right partner of choice, or do I need to make other choices in terms of quality or cost? With our analytics capabilities, you will have that insight in order to make those kind of decisions, from very small decisions like I just explained, but also the entire landed cost of your supply chain. Yes, so where you have the cost of production involved, the cost of warehousing involved, the cost of transportation involved, and whatnot. Yeah, so you can make it as easy and as difficult as you like. Yeah. Invoice matching and verification is also one of the parts that we offer out of our platform. So if you look at the technology that we use, it's a platform that helps you in covering all disciplines, from integration to execution to visibility to collaboration and analytics. You can use that in various forms. Yeah, so we have customers using it for different use cases. We tend to start with smaller projects if that is something that the customer would need, but we can also cater for entire platform decisions, yeah, using us as the backbone for your 4PL business, for example. Yeah. Good. Then the third part is building resilience in unpredictable times. In other words, what do I do when disruptions occur? Yeah. So disruptions in its smallest form. Yeah. So a simple delay, yeah, of a shipment, or disruptions like the geopolitical ones of closure of the Red Sea, basically. Yeah. How do I ensure my supply chain has the least impact? How do I make sure that the parties involved know what to do to mitigate these kind of risks? Now, in order to make this a bit more understandable, I've brought two examples. One example is an example around the replenishment of inventory. Disruptions can occur, like said, in delays at port discharging, or weather-related delays in roads whatsoever. And how can I predict the impact of that? And how can I real-time see the reality of those delays, and what do I need to focus on in order to mitigate that? The second example that I have brought is a more strategic example, where if strategic sourcing decisions need to be made. For example, a big disruption in the Red Sea occurs, so it's not a matter of this will be solved tomorrow, but this is a thing of months, if not years. How do I build my supply chain so resilient that I can act again accordingly? Yeah. So if we look into the first example, and this is one of the two analytics examples. Yeah. So this is what one of our customers uses in their live system. So they do the execution on our platform, they do the visibility on our platform, and they want to understand what the replenishment cycle is for their goods to meet the customer demand. So what you see on the left-hand side is the supply, yeah. So the open orders and the orders that are in transit. So the open orders are orders that I have booked with my supplier, and then you have the demand side. So that is the customer side. In other words, the side that I supply to, yeah. What you see here is a calendar-based view of 12 weeks ahead, where I can see what I need to do in terms of SKU replenishment. Yeah. So if you look at the lower side of this slide, you see green, yellow, and red boxes. Now we all know traffic lights, so it works similarly, I would say. Yeah. The line items there are SKU, so product items. And what you see here is that, for instance, in the first example, in those 12 weeks, the first 6 weeks, I'm relatively safe. There's no worry at all. In week 7, 8, I need to think about starting to supply my inventory, replenish my inventory again, because otherwise in a week 9 to 12, I will have difficulties in meeting my customer demand. So these kind of relatively simple views help our customers in making these kind of replenishment decisions. Yeah. So now you can imagine, since this is all real life and real time, you can imagine that if a delay occurs in a transport, so in the execution part of our platform, it will immediately be visible here. So that means that the SKU line item will not have the 6 weeks of at ease, but it might only have like 3 or 4 weeks, because I have delays in my current in transit supply. Yeah. So if you then look at the middle top of the dashboard, you see the SKUs to watch. So this is something that varies then. Yeah. So if you have delays, you will see other SKUs that you need to act upon. Yeah. So in our system, they drill down towards that level to see, okay, I need to order supply from my suppliers in order to meet the customer demand. So this is a very simple view to help our customers in making those kind of decisions to make their supply chain more resilient. So that's a very operational day-to-day kind of activity that you can use supply chain orchestration for. If you then look at a more strategic view, a view over total cost, yeah, so total landed cost of my supply chain, where production is involved, where tariffs are involved, where fulfillment is involved, where outbound is involved, and you then look at big strategic sourcing decisions, for instance, yeah, or transport decisions. So the example of the good old Red Sea always pops up. Yeah, now it's closed. I need to go over Africa, yeah, which means my transport cost will go up, my time will go up. Does it still make sense to source out of China? Yeah, or do I want to make it more resilient and start sourcing a bit closer to Europe or to the US? And where do I have the most impact on cost? Is it really transportation, or do I see in production my cost going up? Yeah, because I come to a standstill. Or do I see that my fulfillment centers are always empty now? Yeah, these kind of decisions you can make with that, and help our customers in more strategic decisions. Yeah, so it means that These kind of platforms you can use for day-to-day operations as an overlayer over your transactional systems to do the orchestration, but you can also use them in very strategic decisions. Where does my sourcing come from? Do I still rely on my partner in transportation, or do I want to choose other ports of discharge? These kind of decisions you can make as well to stay competitive in your market. So this is how supply chain orchestration helps you with that. Yeah. So as a conclusion of that, before we go into questions, some key takeaways. We've spoken about supply chain orchestration and what it is. So the strategic coordination and integration of all activities and processes and disciplines involved in the production, sourcing, manufacturing, and delivery of goods. Yeah. So the end-to-end supply chain. Like I explained in the beginning, it's very important to build strong relationships. It's nice that you have good and strong integrations with the parties involved. The human element, I mean, we are all in supply chain. The human element is still very important, that you can communicate easily and clearly towards the parties involved on the same language, basically. Yeah. So with normalized data that everyone speaks the same. Leveraging existing systems and sharing of data. I'm a big advocate for openly sharing data. Of course, always the respective laws involved there. But often you see people trying to keep the nuts to themselves like a squirrel. Yeah, it is important that you share knowledge towards the parties, and then also you can expect to get that back. It helps you simply in getting more resilient supply chains in place, I would say. Yeah. So make data and notification driven decisions through technologies. You cannot do it all yourself by scrolling through a big lists. You want to be triggered on that what needs attention, and systems typically help you with this. So I suggest, regardless, to try and build that kind of concept within your supply chain. Yeah. If you look at implementations, yeah, so start small. Start with integrated initiatives like small control towers from an inbound perspective, to simply gaining visibility over your carrier performance, or link to carrier portals where you see updates from carriers, and grow into the overall supply chain orchestration. Yeah, we often advise not to start big, because if you take too big chunks, it basically becomes too much of a burden, where you eventually do not start at all. Yeah, so we always suggest to our customers to start small and grow within. Choose the partner as well that helps you in growing there. Yeah, that can grow with you. I think that's an important point as well. I think with that we come to the end of this presentation, this webinar. I hope it was useful and insightful for you.